Good evening. Welcome back for another great episode of the Jump Ball, the All In Politics platform on the All In Network. And you know who I be, coming in live and direct. This is your boy, Walt the Damager, sitting here alongside my co-part.
At Rob Cooper Jr. What's going on, my friend?
Oh man, listen, it's been a great week, man. We just wrapped up on the DNCs. Next week we're gonna go into the RNC. It's a great time right now, but just speaking to you behind the scenes, man, I'm very skeptical about there even being an election,
Yeah,
just for the simple fact
we're
that a lot of
going.
the institutions are breaking down.
I agree. We're going to get into that. And to your point, you're not the only one who thinks about that. And let's talk about the DNC. And I think that's been the common theme from Monday night all the way to Thursday night. Um, what I've seen at the DNC was a theme of democracy and democracy being at risk. Starting back on Monday night when First Lady Michelle Obama spoke, to Tuesday night when we had some other folks come on, and then Wednesday night we had President Barack Obama and VP nominee Kamala Harris speak, and then Joe Biden, who will be the next president of the United States, in my opinion, really closed it down, and it was a really good um, convention. With this being a virtual thing, it was a lot different. We didn't see, the folks on in the big arenas with the red, white, and blue top hats on and balloons coming down from the rafters. We didn't see all that. But to be honest with you, we're not at a time where we can be partying right now. No one is partying. It's Friday. We're taping this right now. It's Friday, and normally folks are ready for happy hour and hanging out all night, spending up their paychecks at the local bar and grills or whatever. We're not having that right now. Because we're right now facing a killer virus, quite frankly, that's out there. Close to 6 million cases here in the United States. Close to 180,000 folks have perished, American lives. We lead the nation, we lead the world in both cases and deaths by a long shot. We have no answers. We have no leadership. And I think, from that point, just from a pandemic and a healthcare issue, it's no secret that this has become an economic issue. I think all of us, 330 million Americans have been touched by this virus, either from a health standpoint or by an economic, standpoint, and it's crippling. And the fact that you have, a president who's given no leadership, and I think that was a theme, in the Democratic National Convention, quote what they said, it is what it is. And to quote with what Donald Trump said a couple of weeks ago when he spoke to, Axios. It is what it is. 150,000 people dead. It is what it is. 175,000 people dead. It is what it is. 180,000 people dead. It is what it is. So that's the leadership that we have right now in place. And I'll just come out and say it. I'm not going to fault anyone for voting for this in 2016 because no one knew. It was an open seat. We came from an Obama era. Some people voted Trump because they thought that, Hillary was secure in her victory and they wanted to be able to say, hey, I didn't vote for Hillary, but hey, she's the president. Some people voted because, particularly African Americans, they voted third party because they got tired of the Democrats taking our votes for granted, or some of them just, quite frankly, just stayed home, you know, and then you had a Republican base that was upset because they spent 8 years with the African American as their president, and they were looking to unleash a backlash. With all that being said, this is what we had. How you looking now? How's that decision looking right now? Here in in the middle of August. 75 days left until election. Are we going to make the same mistake? Are we going to continue on? You know, how are we looking now? And one thing I can say about Joe Biden, I'll say this: I was a supporter of Joe Biden back in 1988 when he first ran for president, as I was a junior in college. Um, and I've always kind of supported his campaign when he initially got him up, but unfortunately he was unable to get past Iowa in most of his campaign runs. And in fact, I wanted to support him in 2007, but a guy by the name of Barack Obama came out, and again, Joe didn't make it out of Iowa, but as we know, resurfaced as the VP, and then, in my opinion, became the greatest vice president of all time. And then, as we kind of move forward into the election cycle for 2020, most of the events happening last year at this time when they were holding some of the debates, Joe looked like I came out initially and supported Joe, but Joe didn't look like he was really interested in being involved in this election. And it's quite interesting because his granddaughters kind of spoke on that last night as they were introducing him. I don't think he really wanted to be a part of it. He was a 70-something-year-old man living that retirement life, giving off that VP pension. I think Joe was good, after spending 50 years in public service. I think he was good. But it was his granddaughters who mentioned, at the DNC convention last night that they had to convince him to get off the couch and run because the country needed you. And when Joe came out and said, listen, I'm not looking for power. I'm looking to be a bridge. And by him selecting Kamala Harris as his VP, you can't but take what he said, the words that he said, and put them in action and believe what he said, that he's looking to, you know, pass the torch. And Obama was a part of that. I don't know if you saw there was some late scheduling changes when Kamala spoke. She was actually supposed to speak next to last, and Obama was supposed to close out Wednesday night. And Obama said, no, we want Kamala to close out
Right.
Wednesday night, which was a huge statement. And they're showing clearly, the Democratic Party is showing clearly where that torch is being passed
Leadership.
to the leadership.
Leadership.
That is correct.
Hmm. And just to piggyback off of you, like to talk about the severity and where we're at in America, um, just a couple key things that just stood out more so from the Republicans versus the Democrats. It seems more so that even though they have no substantiated evidence based off the Republicans have no substantiated uh, platform to go against the Democrats. It seems like they just want to throw back stuff like, well, the Democrats said they wanted to do this, or the Democrats wanted to do that, but there's no effective plan into making the American people feel assertive or sure or certain of their future. And the reason I'm saying this, as far as I don't feel as though there may be an election, is because the institutions that's being broken down that usually hold up our democracy, that we look forward to as Americans to keep these institutions accountable, are not helping us out. I think just a couple of days ago, they released a report saying that they got the Senate committee or Senate Intel committee got information stating that Putin was involved with, cooperating and trying to mess up the elections. Now, this is the same group that came out when the Mueller report came out, and they said that there's not enough evidence where they wanted to indict a sitting president. Well, here you have it. You have the evidence, and now you're coming out with a couple months, couple days lead up to an election, and now you want to bear that burden of proof. Like, that's very scary at this time.
So when you look at that, you're saying about, just want to touch on the point about not having elections. Um, who makes that call?
We, the people, should be able to make that call.
So, and my assumption is that the people are going to make the call to hold elections. So who's going to make the call to call the elections off is what I'm asking.
Well, like I said, if you're looking at it right now, you have Trump disrupting the postal service, Trump disrupting the electoral process. He said in one statement, I seen he said he was going to have sheriffs at the polling places.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you need sheriffs at polling places?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why are you closing down certain districts, stating that it's unsafe to go into these polling places with the coronavirus and this, that, and the third? And like we were talking behind the scene, it's unsafe to go to the polling places, but you're ushering children by the thousands back into school.
Mm-hmm.
How does that even correlate? Like, how does that even make sense?
Mm-hmm. You know,
So, oh no, go ahead.
no, you know it was interesting about that, and you know the threats that he's throwing out, and it's interesting that he threw out that he's going to have law enforcement um, located at he's going to have law enforcement at some of these polling places, which I find real interesting of him coming out saying that. But perhaps he may be just a tad bit out of touch because he always actually mails in his vote. In fact, he'll be mailing in his vote this time. Last week he applied to have his mail-in ballot sent to the White House so that he could fill it out and vote not in New York but vote in the Florida elections. I find that interesting. But had he not been so far out of touch, law enforcement have been at least one. That law enforcement has been at patrolling every polling place that I've been at since I've been, over the last maybe 10 years. So I'm not sure what he's getting at. You know what I mean? So okay, you have a sheriff at the polling place. Okay, and I mean, what does that mean, right? I mean, are you putting you know, okay.
I was, it may be more of a fear tactic. I mean, it's still a form of voter suppression. However
Uh
you
huh.
look at it,
Uh huh.
it's a form of voter suppression.
Right. Right.
So we that are knowledgeable about the elections and what goes on and the nuances beyond it, and those that have been taking place in polling,
Mm-hmm.
you know that there's a level of security. You already know that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
he's insinuating that they're going to be the conduits to have it stopped. So, like, we live in this Gestapo type,
Right.
authoritarian type atmosphere where he's going to say, okay, once I pull the switch, then you close off all
Right.
voting at a certain time, which is not going
Yeah.
to be the case.
Right. Right. So this is interesting because we can kind of talk a little bit about this. What this is he's banking on low information, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you tell folks, okay, um, I'm going to have armed law enforcement agents at the polling place. Well, I live in rural suburb America, and we have an armed uh, law enforcement agent at our. You know what I mean? And it's certainly not, in my precinct, they're certainly not trying to suppress the vote there. You know what I mean? They're there for the safety of the, number one, of the democratic process. And they're also there for the safety of the poll workers, many of them being seniors who are working and things like that, and just being at the aid there. And, but it's interesting. That's just something that's always been a part of the process. But voter suppression, I think, with a lot of people, and I would love to have someone on to go deeper into this, an attorney or something. But just from my eyes, voter suppression really only happens when you have low education, right? So, for instance, they could go through, and we'll talk a little bit about Louis DeJoy, who's sitting in the Senate right now, trying to explain his shenanigans to the Senate, and he'll be in the House of Representatives on Monday doing the same thing. But you could literally go and they could go to every city, every neighborhood, and pick up every blue mailbox, okay, that they want. And that's not going to help Donald Trump, okay? First and foremost, and I'll just speak, if the only way that Donald Trump can win is if black folks don't vote. And one thing that I know, and from my 35 years of voting now, one thing that I've learned in voting as a black voter and voting in the black community is A lot of black folks don't rely on no blue mailbox to select their votes. We take our souls to the polls, or
Hmm.
now with Kamala being part of the Divine Nine, the Greek, or they're saying down the stroll to the polls. We go
Hmm.
to the polls because our ancestors have been turned away at the polls, so we're showing up. Okay,
Right.
the only way that you can suppress the black vote is through misinformation and low information. And that's why I think podcasts like we're doing right now to get folks to understand, take away that fear factor. Folks, don't think because some gentleman who's in law enforcement is going to be standing outside the polls. A lot of times the police are directing traffic and telling you where you can park and things like that, particularly because this is going to be one of the largest elections out. So you're going to need law enforcement to manage that. It's just common sense. Okay. Don't be afraid of that. Move past that. That's always happened. That's always been a part of the process. When they talk about moving mailbox, well, you don't put your if you dumb enough to put your ballot in a blue random mailbox happen to be on your block, you're a fool. Take your ballot to the post office. Call your voter office. Okay, make arrangements to have it, dropped off. If you're elderly, find your nieces, your nephews, your grandchildren that can help you get, take your vote, your mail vote, and have them drop it off directly
Absentee
to,
mail-in.
yeah,
Exactly.
absentee, all that. Drop it off at your voter place. I'm telling you, look, I'm gonna play Trump's role just like Trump was playing. Do not do not drop your voter mailing application in the mailbox. Do not. I'm telling folks straight up. Okay. The
And,
other
and,
thing,
and to your point, I'm glad you said that because just by you saying it, it just registered in my mind. So he's telling you basically what not to do. So
right,
don't do it.
right.
And,
Don't do
and
it.
yeah,
I mean, it's funny because while the Democrats, on the other hand, they've done a really nice job, and they spent a lot of time educating the folks who were watching it, and of course it wasn't just Democrats, but it's Republicans too, watching it, of how you can get your ballot cast. Do not fall for the okie doke. They put up a text number, and I think it was 30333, text vote, so that they can have your information, so they can send you links on how to safely get your mail-in ballot and how to safely cast it without
mhm.
being disenfranchised. So this is the thing that we have to do, and this is something that I've dedicated, these next 75 days to utilizing this podcast platform, as well as utilizing the my social media outlets as well. It's really about voter education, and because that's the only way that I believe that we could prevent voter suppression.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then we'll also add in the links at the bottom of this podcast a couple directives where people can go and get the information as well. We always want our listeners to be well informed and have resources either during or after our podcast so they can use them as a viable means of getting what they need. So, with that being said, how do you feel about the RNC? What do you think they're going to usher in?
Well, it's interesting. With the RNC, first of all, this is their first time as well. Now, of course, like the Democrats were somewhat at a disadvantage, but I believe that they were an advantage because I think they were always equipped for this type of environment, this virtual environment. Number one, because the Democratic Party has embraced the virtual environment, whereas most Republicans they have not. Right. So the Republicans they have been defiant of this shelter in place movement, this virtual movement, working from, working from home. They wanted to be out and about, right? Without the mask on. They want to confront the virus head on, okay, which is a very dangerous thing to do. So they haven't really they've actually preached against the social distancing and virtual type environment. So it's going to be real interesting to see how they incorporate this component to their base. Because this is something that, quite frankly, it's not necessarily something that they can't do. It's something that they, up until this point, have rejected. So that's going to be interesting. And by the way, same thing with Donald Trump. I mean, he was defiant and had his riot and I mean, excuse me, his rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which ended up probably being the cause of taking the life of Herman Cain, which many people speculate. Uh, and who else lives that he put into jeopardy, even though the arena was only filled a third of the people showing up. They still didn't practice any social distancing, so they could have filled that whole arena, somebody sitting in every other seat, something like that. They chose not to. They chose to again combat science and take it head on. So it's going to be interesting how they really confront this piece. And the other piece, too, the person who's leading their ticket, who is Donald Trump, is directly responsible for mismanaging the COVID-19 coronavirus. So now we got to
Mm-hmm.
look at, how do you explain that? You know what I mean? So the very fact that we're even, doing a virtual convention, which we, up until maybe a month ago, we were going to do this live. We were going to be, in North Carolina first, and then we were going to be, we couldn't take the show to North Carolina. We're going to take the show to Jacksonville. You know what I
Right.
mean? So they've rejected this, this virtual piece all along. So it'll be interesting, what they put together. Um, it'd be interesting to watch that. But again, with Donald Trump, who is the leading their ticket, and they came out full fledged and supported this guy. It's going to be really interesting to see, how they spin this and really convince not their base, who they're talking to, but obviously it's going to be more people other than their base because it will be virtual. They're going to be other folks out there, some undecideds, to say, hey, you know, it's safe to vote for Donald Trump. That's
Right.
that's that's going to be the kicker. And I can tell you, going back to the Democratic National Convention, they laid out a really compelling case against him. They didn't do it with political talk. They did it with real American people from
Mm-hmm.
every part of the nation, including the seven territories as well. They represented all 57 states and territories and got feedback from all of the citizens who are suffering from the last 3.5 years of Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's a that very accurate. And like I said, the Republicans are known for cheating, treachery, and projections.
Hmm.
But it's going to be interesting, like I said, just to hear their point of view next week. I'm definitely going to tune in because, like at this juncture, we definitely have to have an open mind and listen to what is being introduced and subjected to the American consciousness.
Hmm.
Because in order to understand your opponent, you got to study your opponent.
Right.
There's no other way that you can defeat them. If you sit back and just think that everything that you portray and put out there is a hero or end all to everything, you're always going to lose. So you
Right.
always have to listen to what your counterparts or your ally, or not your allies, but you're not even going to say enemy because it's just such a strong word. But you always want to see what your rival has going and what they're trying to put into the American mainstream as the truth.
That's
Like you
right.
said, we're sitting here now at 170,000 deaths of COVID, and then you have more than 50 plus million jobs lost, unemployment. They're trying to get these kids back in school. There's no initiatives. Food is running on a shortage. The economic structure is being taken right from under us. And as we see, the tariffs that Trump placed on these other countries is definitely placing a burden on us as well. Amazon is rising to the ranks. They're trying to take out the mailing system and everything else. I think that they're trying to go for this one type system where everything is ran through one agency. I wouldn't be surprised in the next 5, 10 years, Amazon runs everything from your local medication to your mailing and hospitalization. It might be telemed held through Amazon.
It's definitely a possibility. There's definitely a possibility. You listen to All In Politics with at Rob Cooper, along with my main man Walt the Damager. And if you like the content that you're listening or watching today, you'll go to our YouTube channel, the All In Network YouTube channel. Lots of great content, lots of great podcasts there. Starting off with the All In podcast with Elijah Cooper and Mike Batson, talking about some of the latest sports. They have some new content that just dropped today regarding the NBA draft lottery. Make sure that you tune into that. Also, we got a new feature show coming. We have the Beast Mode. It's a gaming program led by and hosted by my man LaQuinn Thompson, as well as Rain and Bliss. These young ladies are doing a phenomenal job. Speaking of pop culture, last week their latest podcast, they actually are talking about WAP. I just found out what that meant. But they'll be
Uh,
talking about that and get it. I'm a little slow. I'm 51 years old. I'm slow.
Come on,
But
man. Everybody knew that stood for water, ice, and pretzels.
water, ice, and pretzels. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what it meant. Why'd you leave it out like that? Being from a Philly guy, how could I not know that? But
Right.
they have excellent content from a young woman's perspective, and also Real Deal, Cody Deal. His podcast is up and running. So make sure that you get out to the All In Networks YouTube page. And what should they do, Walt?
Smash that subscribe button, man. Don't even ask no questions. When you see it and it tells you to, make that move, you know what to do. Smash it. Don't worry about it. It won't have you for assault and battery. It's all good.
Smash that subscribe button. But get back to the convention again. Mike Bloomberg was interesting. There was a lot of controversy with Mike Bloomberg speaking, and I'd be quite honest with you. I never was a fan of Mike Bloomberg, and I was probably one of them who felt that they probably should have found someone else to speak other than him. But let me tell you something. Mike Bloomberg got up there, man, and said something. I'd love to hear your opinion of his speech, but I'll just give you mine. He surprised me, and he was just, to me, he came across very really honest, and he talked about the piece that really caught my eye was when he told the American people, looked in the camera and told the American people, he said, man, Trump is for people like me, man, rich billionaires. He said that he gave me a tax cut, he said, and I'm the last person that needed that tax cut. But what did he do? Pretty much, what did he do for you? And the other thing too, he looked in the camera again and it sent the message to the small business owners, because the small business owners will probably hurt the most. You see, I think in Pennsylvania, like 400 diners have closed up since COVID. Okay, so these small business owners, and he looked at these. I got a message. I got a question for you, small business owners, and he said, if you brought someone in and you hired somebody, and they ran your small business into the ground, would you hire? Would you rehire them? you know. And he didn't ask for a question. He said, but then think about this. Now, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to say no. Then he asked, then why would you vote for someone who ran your country into the ground?
Mm.
No, excuse me, who ran your small business indirectly? Well, no, excuse me, directly ran your small business into the ground as the president of the United States. I thought that was real powerful. And again, anyone who followed me on social media, I've been a huge critic of Mike Bloomberg, even on this podcast. But I have to give him credit and kudos. I think a lot of people who've come out and spoke the truth. But give me your thoughts on Mike Bloomberg.
Well, I would say it, and I might get penalized by the FCC if they still exist for the explicitness in which I would like to say what I
Mm-hmm.
think about Mike Bloomberg, but for the sake of civility, I digress. I always believe that those that come out and speak later, you
Mm,
already reap the rewards of what we're falling under right now.
mm-hmm.
So the past 3 years, your tax cuts, he probably raked back in everything that he dished out. So he had a failed campaign that went. He had a failed platform that he put up, and then he eventually dropped out of the Democratic race for presidency. He spent a total, what, 33 million or 35? It
No,
was
no,
up there.
$500 million he dropped into his campaign.
Okay, so let's do the math on it. 500 million he dropped.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a total of 330 million Americans.
Correct.
He could have gave each American $1 million of that purse
Right.
that he let go, and
Right.
still would have had change left over.
And he would have got elected.
And he would have got elected.
He would have got elected for $330 million,
Exactly.
and would have had the extra hundred million and some change in his pocket. You know,
Exactly.
right? So
Exactly.
and that's a very good point that you brought up about this. And you're starting to see this from everywhere. And I will say this: I do now believe that he's part of the establishment, and I do believe that the establishment are. Let me just point the fingers right deadly at them. Mike Bloomberg and the rest of the establishment. They are responsible for Donald Trump. They are the ones
Exactly.
who, because of their behavior of what they've done over the last 3.5 years, well, really more than that, maybe five years. They're responsible for getting Donald Trump elected. And now what's happening, because they see, they had a chance to see what happened. And now the country's on the brink of going into total destruction.
Right.
Democracy is almost, how they say, the chances of democracy continuing is slim and none. And they said slim right now is running out the back door.
Right.
So it got to this point now, and now what they're saying, it reminds me of when we grew up. You and I grew up together in Roxborough, and we all we're down Manayunk, man, maybe busting windows or something like that, and then we come up and our parents catch us, and we all start snitching. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, I was there, but it was Walter through the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're having right now. Everybody snitching on everybody, and now trying to move forward to prevent this from being a huge disaster. What we're at now, you know, we're there. Whereas in 2016, everything was all fun and jokes. You go back and go to YouTube and watch the Democratic convention. Back in 2016, it was a joke. Donald Trump was a joke. Everybody's cracking up laughing. He got no shot at winning.
Well,
Meanwhile,
let's
they
be
were
clear.
working in behind to get him elected.
Exactly. Well, let's be clear about this as well. The establishment are the puppeteers of the good cop, bad cop.
Mm-hmm.
So people shouldn't believe that there are actual politicians. And
Mm-hmm.
if it is, it's very slight and slim in between politicians that has the interests of the people at heart. But they control these special interest groups and these groups that push for the agendas and everything that's being force fed down America's throats. So that on the one hand, everybody has to take into account. Now, as far as the democracy goes, we as the people are going to have to snatch that back
That's right.
because
That's right.
because they feel as though that they keep pushing these agendas and their priorities where they feel as though they think we want it. We got to go back there and tell them what we want,
That's
not what
right.
we expect.
That's right. And it's funny because you look at the Democratic, and I think the Democratic Party, just based off of the convention, they're there now. Had this convention been held exactly the same way in 2016, where they weren't talking back in 2016, they weren't talking no tent, right? This big tent
Yeah,
where you have progressives, moderates, and conservatives all coming in and all having equal say at your convention, right? They didn't do this
yeah.
back in 2016, offering up this tent, you know. Um, it was a lot of Bernie bashing. You know what I mean? There was a lot of Barack Obama bashing. Hillary Clinton and the Clintons. We're trying to reestablish the Democratic Party as the Clinton Party, as opposed to, it becoming an Obama party. In fact,
Right.
if you recall, Barack Obama really didn't get on board with the Clinton campaign until late, and really until it was too late.
Exactly.
when she realized and the party realized that they can't win without Barack. So probably the election was probably as close as it probably was because they figured it out at the last minute. You
They needed
know,
that endorsement. That
they
endorsement meant everything.
exactly. So yes, if they had this platform back in 2016, there would be no Donald Trump. Okay. Now here's the problem. Now Donald Trump is in, and Donald Trump has actually had an opportunity to make moves in ways, to suppress votes and things like that. Now he has that kind of power, and he has the
Hmm.
backing of Vladimir Putin, who, as anyone knows, is one of the biggest international gangsters around. He ain't nothing to
Hmm.
be played with. So when you mix that, and yeah, Trump may not be, I'll say, smart. You know what I mean? He has a backing of a genius in Vladimir Putin, who knows
Exactly.
how this guy, man, his guy's been rigging elections since he came out of his mother's womb.
Well, let's say
So
he's a master strategist.
he is. He is. He's wicked, but he's a master strategist. And so this is what you're up against, and what you're seeing right now from the Democratic Party is what you should be seeing: all hands on deck. And what they're calling out to America, okay, and say, yo, let's get under this tent. You progressives, you moderates, you conservatives, you Imhotep hustlers, or Hotep hustlers, as we call them. Come under this tent, right? Let's get rid of this neo-fascist first. And then on
Hmm.
January 21st, let's discuss our ideologies. Let's sit down like we got some sense now, and let's see how we can make America work for everybody, not
Right.
just not just for the 1%. And now it looks like maybe the 1% now, hey, you at risk now of losing everything. You see what I'm saying? They're at risk. You know what I mean? Because this fool has taken it to a level that they couldn't even dream of. They got their tax cut, but now they see this place heading over a cliff, and those tax breaks ain't gonna help you if this country falls over the cliff. Okay, what good is that, man? What good is having that you talked about Amazon? What good is having Amazon when all your employees are dead?
Exactly.
From a virus.
Well, you got to remember they've moved towards automation. That's where they'll get your Elon Musk. Because, like I said, all these
Huh?
people are not coming out for no reason. So
Yeah.
you have Bill Gates, you'll have Elon Musk, and you'll have like different fractions all coming together under the same gods for one common purpose, and they'll just fuse it under like one umbrella.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Mhm.
good luck with that. It's not
Yeah.
going to be successful. The
It's
only
it's
way,
not
the
it's
only
not,
way
but they're outfitting themselves.
the only way capitalism can work. You still need people to run your automation. So the only way you can survive in any type of society is you need people. You need living, live people breathing. And right now, you're looking at an environment that's man, on his last leg. We got forest fires in California. We have a virus that has ripped through this country. Enough is enough. And I'll leave it, we'll end on that note. But folks, really, this is where the choices you have. You know what I mean? If you want to continue to discuss ideology, you want to continue to disagree on a political notion, that's fine. Just understand that if you mess it up this time. If you mess up your vote this time, and if you don't vote this time, it will be the last time you have an option to vote. That's what I'm saying. Because in a fascist society, you don't vote. You don't have a
Exactly.
choice. Or
Right.
or you have a vote, but you're gonna be told who to vote for,
Exactly.
or else. So I mean, this is the last time you can you have a freedom of a choice. Choose wisely. I'm not gonna tell you who to vote for. If I had to tell you who to vote for, then I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be you.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, there's at least 40, according to data, there's about 40% of this country, 4 out of 10 people who still don't see what's coming to them, and
Exactly.
I feel bad for them. But I mean, they need to be saved too, and the only way that they're going to be saved, along with yourself, is by you doing the right thing. You who know better, doing the right thing on November the 3rd, if not sooner. So again, I want to close out by really driving this home is that everyone should be applying right now for a mail-in ballot. Get the mail-in ballot as soon as possible. Make your voting selection as soon as possible. Take your ballot to the voting administration office. Get your confirmation stamp or whatever you need, or take it directly to the post office and mail it. Do not, do not trust your ballot to any strangers. Do not give it to any stranger. Give it to someone who you love, someone who you know. Cherish this vote as much as possible. We need a strategy, and it's time to plan now. Do not plan your strategy. Don't wait till November 1st because it's all hell going to break loose. It's going to be total chaos and total confusion, which always will work in the favor of the fascists. It's no longer you're voting against Democratic or Republican. I'm not even mentioning either of those parties. Okay.
Nope.
You're voting right now for
Fascism
democracy
or
versus
democracy.
fascism. Right.
Yep.
How do you want it?
Yep.
How you want it? And I'm going to tell you, you folks out there who call yourselves Trump supporters and you enjoy racism, if you think racism is bad, and if you think racism is good, wait till you get a taste of it. Wait till you get a taste of that fascism. You
No, here we
gonna
go one
understand.
better.
You gonna
So they think
understand
that
what black folks
racism.
have been. You're gonna understand what black folks have been hollering, kicking, and screaming about for 400 years. Wait till your behinds get a taste of this fascism. Trump got something. I'm just gonna come out and say it, and I'm gonna point to the camera. Trump got something for y'all too. Believe it.
Mm-hmm. Fascism takes no favors. They favor no one.
That's right. That's right. It's only 600 people that's going to benefit from a fascist society. So with that said, man, let's take us home.
All right, so it's definitely been a great episode. Like I said, touching on things from the DNC, the RNC, where we're at right now with our state of current affairs, where you need to be in the voting pool, whether you want to get out and get your right to exercise your right where others never had it. And I'm gonna make this caveat clear: our ancestors didn't die for the moment; they were murdered for the moment. Listen again: they weren't killed; they were murdered. All right, there is a distinction. So get out there and exercise your right to make change for you and the common good of your family and the things that you cherish most. So with all that being said, we want you to stay blessed, stay out the way, and stay tuned. Smash that subscribe button, and tune in next week for another exciting episode. As of right now, this has been another Real to Real, the Jump Off, the All In podcast on the All In Network. And I'm your boy bringing the heat to you every week faithfully, Walter Damager.
And I'm at Rob Cooper Jr. Get at me on Instagram with any show ideas or guest requests. Peace.
Peace.